presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate. As we know, basketball tournament time started yesterday, and it continued on for the women today. I think it actually started 2 days ago for the women. Either way, time to get rid of that. Moving back to football, right, TJ?
Oh yeah. I appreciate the props. Takes a talented man to insert some props 30 seconds before we go live. So
yeah, I did run down to the garage to get the football.
Key point about basketball. I saw on Appalachian State's website that students get in free to the conference tournament.
All they got to do is find their way to Florida, right?
Yeah, with valid student ID. Got to get to Florida. But, I mean, considering how, I guess, moribund we've been in basketball over the past years, it might be something you want to make a trip to, especially spring break coming up. Who knows?
Yeah. Actually, that would be a phenomenal spring break destination. You get to see your favorite team probably do some damage, hopefully do some damage. That would definitely be cool. Check out the first comment of the night, TJ.
Of course. What's up, Artie?
Artie Cat is back. He's been jumping on the baseball shows, so he's a little bit of a Texas State baseball fan as well. So
yeah,
cool to see him keep coming back around.
All things Texas State Sunbelt, huh?
Yeah, I think so. We have to see if he'll get on the basketball show. As we know, Sunbelt lacking a little bit in basketball. Let's see if that can change. With it's a real outside shot. TJ, you probably know this too, but JMU and App both making it is probably unlikely. But let's see if enough craziness happens. Maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not beyond the pale, but very unlikely. Considering too, because I mean, damn near half of the ACC is going. So. I mean, and you've got, I think 4 or 5 teams out of Pac-12. You've got, I think right now they're calling the Big 12 the best conference in basketball. I don't know how that's happened, but got Kansas, Baylor looks real good. Bunch of teams there, and then obviously the usual suspects in the SEC, Kentucky, and I think LSU. I'm not entirely sure. I know LSU's never super strong in basketball. But I think I know Kentucky is for sure. Yeah,
I think South Carolina's kind of surprised some people this year too.
Yeah.
Artie's asking me to see if I can juggle a basketball, football, and baseball. No chance. I couldn't juggle one by myself. TJ's the athlete I pretend to be, so we'll.
Yeah, I don't think juggling requires. I don't think my athletic skill set does not translate.
Yeah. That is a tough talent to have. This is Robert Bennett. He says, "Hey guys, first time watching the show live, so we appreciate that, Robert."
Welcome, Robert.
We also have Chris Henson jumping in saying, "What's up?" Jeremiah Henson.
Yeah, that's his son. So that's my cousin that I was telling you about that we need to get on the show.
Yes.
We need to have him on for when we do a basketball show. I'll make an appearance for the basketball show, and we'll have him on. They did really well. They got beat by Millbrook in second round of the playoffs. I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. I think second round of the playoffs the other night. But they've got a kid. Man, Millbrook has a kid that's about 6'8" and a half, and can shoot from 30. They got another. He's got 17 D1 offers, and he's a junior. They got another kid that's I think number 22 is his number. He's about 6'5" or 6'6". He's got 5 D1 offers. I mean, yeah, they've got some talent. It's funny because like their whole front line is like 6'8", 6'7", 6'6", and then they've got like a point guard that's my height that you can obviously tell plays running back or a corner. But it was fun. It was fun to watch. They are really good. I mean, but I will say this: Clayton is a very young basketball team. It's going to get better. Clayton's got a 6'7" forward who can. I mean, it was taking it off the court, off the bounce from 3-point land, and so he's pretty good too. So they'll be good in the future. But yeah, we got to get Jeremiah on.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, we definitely have to have him on, and definitely with you at the same time. We actually have Chuck jumping in from Everyday Eagles. We're about to have them on the baseball show next Monday.
Nice.
This coming Monday. So he says, in your opinion, which school had the best off-season hire at head coach?
I would say Indiana. Right? With getting JMU's head coach?
That's a sneaky good answer because I'm not sure actually if Chuck meant in the Sun Belt or just overall. But
okay. Well, good point. All right, that's fair.
But still, like it's actually a good answer because it is a Sun Belt
related.
So I actually think that's a great answer. That might actually be one of the best coaching hires across NCAA football. I mean, he's essentially put an all-star team together of some years. Yeah, we'll see if it works out. Big Ten's another beast that is a little bit different when it comes to football, but it's.
I mean, I think he'll be. I honestly think he'll be able to compete with the middle of the pack teams. I think it'll go the usual suspects: Ohio State, you'll have Michigan, you'll have Penn State, right? And then in the West, you'll have Wisconsin and maybe Northwestern, and that's probably about it. But then after that, it's fair game. I mean.
We got Iowa over there too, which
I'm sorry, Iowa. Yeah, Iowa.
They can't score any points, but they can stop you.
They'll stop you and they've got like a million tight ends just like in the hamper, just waiting to go. I've never seen so many tight ends in my life in one school.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move on from Chuck's question, ultimately the one that could be a sneaky hire here that I just feel plain flat out don't know enough about is Georgia State's new hire. I haven't really done my research, to be totally honest, on his whole entire background and everything he's bringing to the table. But, a lot of people have always said, like, there's a possibility that you're in the Atlanta market. Do you have kind of a sleeping giant? Tech hasn't taken that market over, right? We'll get to this in just a few minutes. They go head-to-head this year.
I was just going to say, literally first game of the season, that should be that's one for the books, I think. I think we'll all be tuned into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have to see, but there was a lot of movement. We'll probably actually cover a lot more of that kind of stuff on a different episode. We'll kind of keep the structure here for this one. Before we get to, we have a few more comments, but before we get to that, do want to tell you guys, we are presented by collegefootballdogs.com. The website is literally exploding, man. We are doing work on it. We are revamping it. We are getting better. We are adding more writers. We are adding more articles. I don't know what more I can tell you, but it is getting better. We are part of the Dogs Media Network, which is also rebranding to Dog TV, where the website will have almost like a 24/7 video aspect of all the different shows running on it. The brand is building, guys. It's really becoming what we've wanted to, and we're not even a whole year into this. So the next step is adding some bigger, better sponsors. We're working on that right now. We are sponsored by Dano's Seasoning, and I didn't put my banner up for this.
Yeah, where's Dano's? He's got a new fish seasoning out too.
There we go. Yes, yeah. TJ, I've told a couple people in the background. I'll tell everybody watching the show live now too. The weather is starting to break here in North Carolina. It's a little wet and rainy today, but we are going to put together a TJ focused grilling show for you guys.
Yeah, we are.
We got to. Yeah, quite literally put the finishing touches on this and plan it and execute it. But trust me when I say it won't be one you want to miss. It's not going to be a podcast. It will be put up on YouTube after the fact. We're going to do a lot of video editing and make this thing look kind of sharp than trying to, live broadcast a whole grilling experiment with one camera and moving it around. That wouldn't go so well. So we'll put some better things together for that. But I'm excited to, first of all, try out TJ's food. I actually haven't done that yet, sadly. But
you need to gotta get on board, man.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a lot of options. I can't wait to see what we put together and put out there for you guys. Again, a date to be determined. Definitely weather needs to break a little bit more probably for that to be enjoyable and easy. And we've both got kids with crazy schedules, so we got to get into that. But Artie's saying welcome, hello guys. I think he's talking to some of the newer guys because Artie is a legend here, so
you guys he's a staple.
Yeah, you guys can let Artie know that, or Artie can let you know that this is the show to be at, right?
Yeah, you wipe your feet before you come in Artie's house.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. George says Dom and TJ dominating the airways. I don't know about that, but we're gonna give it our best damn shot, and that's for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna do our thing. That's for sure.
Yeah, and Artie Cat's throwing out ULM head coach. We know they had a change down there.
Yep.
So yeah, that's just a rough program to be at.
I was
honestly.
here to say it's hard. It's a hard one to take over for a lot of reasons, right? The market, number one. I mean, you're competing in ULM against, and albeit Monroe, but still, the state of Louisiana in general is so oversaturated with universities that are really good at football. And it's so hard to pull top quality. I mean, you're talking even your 3 and 4 star talents are going to, Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, or they're going, to even be walk-ons at LSU and those kinds of schools. So, Lafayette, that kind of, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, definitely tough. And with the smallest budget in NCAA football, ain't going to get any easy. Yo, boy, Cars, TJ, if you remember, resident Cajun fan, jumping on a lot towards the end of the season, and he's been on basketball shows and baseball shows. This guy eats up Cajun information, so hopefully we can help provide that. Shout out to Dominic Ambrose, who's saying, what's up, fellas? If you haven't checked out his stuff on the website, he's been to the Shrine Bowl, he's been to the Senior Bowl, he's been to the NFL Combine. He's probably our top writer and contributor right now, putting out tons of content, literally traveling around the country to provide it for dogs. So eat it up, literally. I mean, this guy knows his stuff inside and out. Big Florida State fan, and he's also a fan of Southern Miss as well. That's where I met him and got him involved with the team. So I'll take credit there. Thank you very much.
Little pat on the back, no big deal.
Yeah, two Dominics teaming up here. But no, he's been a phenomenal just person all around, like a good guy, does great work, and he knows his stuff just inside and out. So definitely comments are coming in like crazy, man. This is an explosion. I'm not used to so much coming in. The baseball has started to pick up. The basketball has been lacking as far as the comments go, but football, man, it's taken off. Georgia State, it's a crazy time. Second largest media market in the Sun Belt Conference. I'm surprised they're not first.
Right. You'd think.
I would think Atlanta would be number one. Artie can tell us who's number one.
Media markets. I'm thinking in the Sun Belt. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be Myrtle Beach. It certainly wouldn't be North Carolina. I'm trying to. I don't know. I mean, maybe Louisiana. I doubt it.
I don't know who would be bigger.
Where's Texas State?
Oh. Okay, so he's saying Texas State is Austin.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
San Antonio. I figured.
Okay. San Antonio alone probably. They don't even need to include Austin probably.
Yeah. It took me a minute, and then I put together Texas State, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's because they're listed in San Marcos. I mean, they're literally in San Marcos, but yeah, they have a whole. It's kind of like App State kind of grabbing some of that Charlotte market. It's 2 hours away, but there's tons of alumni down there. So. We also threw out the invite to join this thing from that group, so hopefully they're jumping in here. Artie's awesome, saying awesome. Can't wait to see some of TJ's cooking. Absolutely. Big thighs and large fries, baby.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the coolest part is probably the name so far. You picked a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah. After week 2 for Louisiana, it's a tough 5-week stretch with Tulane, Wake Forest, USM, App State, and Coastal. Yeah, we're going to dive into that here in just a minute. And already saying the I-35 corridor is what is grabbing that media market attention. So without further ado, we've run through all the comments. Welcome to the show. Again, it's been a little while, but we are back. We're going to be coming to you a little bit more consistently. Probably not every week, though. Again, we've got some kids that have activities. We got to get some stuff done with the family as well as kind of bring this content to you. And we want to make sure we do a quality job at doing that. So without further ado, the 2024 Sun Belt schedules. What we're going to do here is go along week by week. We're not going to go team by team. I think this is a better structure for us to talk about everybody kind of all at once as we go, instead of saying, we're going to spend 10 minutes on Texas State, then we're going to move over to Arkansas State. And hopefully the flow is a little bit better. Hopefully that allows everyone to stay interested and comment along the way as well. So don't be afraid to jump in with your comments, questions. I don't think anyone's going to have any concerns because this isn't a classroom setting, TJ, but
this is fair.
We'll see how that goes. First week 1, a heavy slate. We've got Boise State at Georgia Southern, East Tennessee State at App State, North Texas at South Alabama, Lamar at Texas State, Georgia State at Georgia Tech, ODU at South Carolina. Could be kind of sneaky maybe there. Jackson State at ULM. I was
just thinking it, yep.
Central Arkansas at Arkansas State. They just played recently in baseball. They seem to play in almost every sport. That logo there, if you're watching it on the screen, is a little it's not a dead giveaway of who it is. It's Stony Brook, who will be traveling to Marshall in that one. James Madison at Charlotte. Grambling goes to Louisiana. Nevada to to Troy. Almost said Texas State because of the T. But Nevada goes to Troy. Coastal goes to Jacksonville State, another one that could be pretty good. And USM travels to a ranked Kentucky team. You just mentioned them at the start about basketball, ranked in football, at least preseason-wise at this moment, number 23 in the country. So, TJ, start us off. What's your probably like highlight game or just a handful of highlight games? Because probably more than one in this first week of action.
Yeah, I've got a couple. I've got Georgia Southern and Boise State. That's one I really want to see. And not because I have such high rankings or such high thoughts on Boise State. It's more of I want to see how Georgia Southern bounces back, right? They did not end the year well last year, and I think that they've got some proving it to do to their fan base and also to themselves, right? I mean, had some changing, had some guys leave, some other guys will be, starting. Whether it's via portal or graduating, I'm really looking forward to Georgia Southern having a bounce back year. I think we talked about it earlier, Georgia State and Georgia Tech. Yeah, obviously smart money's on Georgia Tech, right? I mean, I don't think anybody in their right mind's not picking, but it's not one of those games I'm going to be surprised if Georgia State pulls it out or is close at the end. Right. Yeah. I think Georgia State certainly has the athletes to compete. And I think too, like you said, somebody's got to take over that Atlanta market. And I think this is one of the games to new recruits or transfers that are coming in that are in that surrounding area that are going to say, okay, if I'm moving to Atlanta or if I want to go to Atlanta, what does that option look like for me? Is it Georgia Tech or is it Georgia State? And I think that's going to be sort of a prove it game for both of those teams. ODU, South Carolina, you touched on it a little bit earlier, sneaky good. I think ODU they didn't end the year healthy last year. Right. They had some injuries going into bowl games and things like that and towards the end of the season. And I think that hurt them a lot. I think they'll come into the year healthy and they'll look to make a statement against a struggling South Carolina team. And then JMU and Charlotte. Charlotte's gotten a little bit better. JMU, I'm more interested in this game to see where JMU stands right now, given what they've lost. Coach, obviously the head coach. A ton of transfers in and out. I'm looking to see where they fall. And then Coastal and Jacksonville State. I'm kind of on the fence about that. Jacksonville ended in the season fairly well last year. Coastal had an okay into the season. We're looking to see them bounce back. And then obviously Southern Miss. My heart wants them to be good. Like I want right. I just want Southern Miss to be. I don't know why. I have no ties to them at all, other than they play at the Rock and we play at the Rock. Apart from that, I don't know. I just want them to be good. So we'll see. I mean, those are my call outs, my standouts. I don't know. You tell me where you stand on that.
I mostly agree with you. I think I'll touch on your last point first. Like the Southern Miss thing, like it's the history and tradition for me. You need your power programs to be your historically power programs because that's what draws the eyes. That's what draws the attention. No offense to ULM or Warhawk fans, but if they're suddenly good, they don't necessarily have staying power. If USM jumps back up and becomes good, I feel like that they have staying power. Like they may have a down year or two. It just those types of things happen, but like they would probably not fall fast or very far. I think that's the excitement of what the Sun Belt is becoming and building. Right, they're not far away, and so you just don't know. And they got the cool nicknames like the defensive line. We call them the Nasty Bunch, or the linebacking core, the Nasty Bunch. You gotta love that stuff. That's what makes college football fun. That's what makes these rivalries fun. These regional things fun. We like to talk trash about how they're not the real Rock, blah, 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 back and forth. I mean, this is the aspect of why we're here, right? So I'll disagree with you on the James Madison Charlotte one. I do agree you want to see where JMU is. Right. I don't trust Charlotte to be any good anytime soon. They are getting better. They are picking up a few pieces. I was going to say they did pretty well. I mean, well-ish relative to where they've been. How about that? They had some. Their record wasn't good, but they had some moments in games where they were looking strong. I will agree with that. I mean, in fact, they jumped up and kind of surprised some people, but kind of lost towards the end of a few of those games, I think. So yeah, and as App fans here and probably even maybe coastal ODU, you don't really want Charlotte to explode because those are the types of programs that are be recruiting the same guys you are.
Right.
So, yeah, in that regard, you can't have that. ODU at South Carolina, like you said, South Carolina's not been great, but that's a huge win if ODU pulls that.
Oh, absolutely. Huge win for not just ODU, but for the entire conference.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then we'll touch on the Georgia Southern one. Tim has been joining up on the baseball podcast here recently. He says, my Georgia Southern Eagles are a mystery as to how things will go for us. The Boise State game should show how things might go for us. And I think that's true to an extent. I think that's still just a little early.
I was going to say no one knows who they are until about game 3 or 4, right? I mean, It takes you a minute to kind of gain traction, especially with all these new transfers, especially portal time. And sorry, Dom, I didn't mean to cut you off, but portal time has changed the entire landscape of college football. And I mean it in a good way, right? Because it has its ups and downs, right? You want to give players the freedom to move around the way these coaches can move around whenever they want, right? So you want to give them that freedom. We talked about this towards the end of last season, right? You want to give them that freedom and the ability to do it. However, what that does create is continuity issues, right? Because now you don't have the same team that you had last year, right, or years prior, and you've got to now be. You take a transfer quarterback that's coming in that's supposed to be really, really good, but he's got to learn a brand new offense. So it takes some time to gel and mesh, and same thing for an outside linebacker or a free safety or it's running backs. I think transfer running backs probably have it the easiest because it's you and the football at running. I mean, can't teach a running back how to be a running back. You either are that or you're not. But apart from that, I mean, I think everybody has sort of a learning curve, maybe not a corner or safety, but I think it changes the landscape of how teams mesh and gel. And I think now you're putting yourself in a situation where you have to give at least 2 weeks for sure, but you don't really know who you are until that 3rd or 4th week of the season, which for some teams is terrible because, especially when you're looking to be bowl eligible, right? You can't afford to wait until the 3rd game of the season to find out who you are. You got to win now. So it's ups and downs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think going back to one of your points about these kids being able to move, like it's funny to me every year at the end of the year, you're saying, I can't believe this guy's just leaving us or the program or look at all that we've done for him. Man, these kids, TJ, tell me the honest truth. Before App recruited you, did you know anything were you like, App's one of my teams, like I like them or anything like that? Maybe you did, but
I didn't know they existed, Dom.
There we go.
I did not even know who Appalachian State was before going on my. I didn't know where it was on the map. I didn't even know it was a school in North Carolina. I didn't even know Elon was a school or Western Carolina for that matter. Like if it was past Wake Forest University, I had no idea that it existed. And that's just me being honest.
Well, hey, Elon wasn't past Wake Forest. Come on, man.
Elon just was. Elon was just Elon. We'll call it that.
Oh man, yeah, but yeah. So I mean, it's always kind of comical to me. Like these kids, they were pulled a million different directions to go to a handful of schools, and you're acting like these schools have been loyal to them for 20 years. This isn't a job. This is. I mean, it feels like that. I mean, TJ, I'm not taking away from. I know you guys have played the game. Yeah, but there's no loyalty either way, unfortunately.
No.
And credit to the ones who do stay.
Going to be because NCAA is a business. It is a $1 billion industry that does not care who it gains and or loses as long as viewership stays the same. And the sooner people realize that, the happier they'll be. All this, NIL is ruining college football. The transfer portal is ruining college football. No, college football is the same thing it was way back in the day. You just now know that these kids are getting money. They've been getting money. These kids have, trust me, I went to a little school in the mountains. It was some of us, not me, but it was some of us, the good ones, that got some money. I'm not naming names, but they got some money. Maybe not Alabama money, but they got some money. You just didn't hear about it. And now you're able to hear about it, and now it's like throwing a wrench in a parade. No, it is what it is. It is what it always has been. You just now know about it. That's all.
Yeah. No, absolutely correct. There's no doubt about it. Before we move to week 2. I think that. Oh, the last thing I'll note is the Georgia State. I think that one becomes more interesting. I probably would have not favored, but at least given Georgia State a better shot because we kind of knew what we had with Elliott, and he's pulled the upset over Tennessee and everything. We just part of that though could now be it's a surprise. They don't really know this coaching staff. There's not any film on this team. There's a lot of players that have moved on. Now they're having to bring new players in. I mean, I'm going to assume it's going to be a little bit of a struggle, especially in game 1. But again, with that Georgia Tech not knowing the game plan very well, that could be advantage Georgia State in that aspect. And again, Georgia Tech, as we know, is not a power. They're in a power conference. They're not a power team. So, I don't think Georgia State players are going to be scared going into there. So,
who would be?
Yeah, just want to touch on that. And then Artie Cat says, poor Nevada, I hope they improve from absolutely horrible to horrible.
So maybe a little less horrible.
A little less horrible, yeah. And then Dominic's chiming in. North Texas versus South Alabama could be interesting with a new coach at South. North Texas had close games last year. Yeah, North Texas puts up points.
They can score in bunches.
What's in that area of the country, it seems like, it seems like those teams put up massive amounts of points and all struggle defensively. Texas State was one of them last year, put up tons of points offensively, needed to work on the defensive aspect of their game. North Texas has been very similar. Look what App State did to them in the bowl game a couple years ago in Myrtle Beach. I mean, they just demolished them.
They dismantled, took them apart.
Yeah. And so, if those teams can figure out their defenses and even have something kind of respectable, probably a lot more formidable opponents when it comes to that. But that'll do it for week 1. Week 2 features one right at the top. Very interesting. App State travels to number 19, Clemson. Woo. Again, we'll see if they stay 19 up until start of the season, but probably a ranked team. South Alabama travels to Ohio. Troy goes to Memphis. Tulsa to Arkansas State. UTSA travels to Texas State. Mark that one down. Marshall at Virginia Tech. Chattanooga to Georgia State. East Carolina at ODU. UAB travels to ULM. Southeast Louisiana goes to University of Southern Miss. That's a mouthful matchup. Right? William and Mary goes to Coastal Carolina. Georgia Southern at Nevada. Gardner-Webb at James Madison. And the Cajuns go to new FBS member Kennesaw State. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. Kennesaw State needs to fill a schedule out, and Cajuns may be kind of needed in a away game. Probably getting a return game and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, Nevada's
got a rough start to the season.
Yeah. I guess the only good thing is for them in this week 2, they get to host Georgia Southern. And again, we won't really know exactly what, even by that game, like you said earlier, probably still don't really know what Georgia Southern is quite yet as they travel across the country to Nevada. But for them, it's good. Nevada has to come all the way across the week 1. So,
yeah, I don't think it matters, to be quite honest. Listen, unless Nevada's completely overhauled it, we'll see. We'll just leave it at that. Oh, and going back to your week 1 point, sorry, I meant to bring this up earlier. Yeah. Coaching change at Georgia State. Obviously, our guy, Sean Elliott, dipped out, went back to South Carolina to be tight ends coach. Give me just briefly, maybe a 30-second snippet version of, because that was an odd, right? Like that. And we talked about these coaches being able to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And we're giving players the autonomy and freedom to do the same things, and no loyalty and those kinds of things and all. And also, too, the timing, right? Because, he kind of stifled recruiting for Georgia State. I don't want to put thoughts in your head. You tell me, what are you thinking?
I thought it was surprising and to loop this in with it because I think it's an aspect that is important to name is the Chip Kelly aspect, right? Same thing. He leaves being a head coach for a position job at a definitely a bigger, better, institution in Ohio State. I think now there was some background stuff with the Chip Kelly thing that there was apparently disagreements that wasn't going to be a relationship that was going to last very long. Not quite sure I heard that at Georgia State, although, you could hear the rumblings for him possibly getting moved on from because, hot start, but then they went very cold towards the end of the season before ultimately winning their bowl game. Like you said, it's the timing that's the biggest thing. Him and Chip Kelly both left kind of high and dry after stuff had kind of settled, you thought.
It's weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think part of that is just they don't like what the head coaching position has become. To be quite honest, I think you probably have. It's hard to say less stress because you're probably more involved in recruiting, right? Or having to do more research and maybe less site visit type of thing. I don't know exactly how the recruiting process works for position coaches at different programs and universities, but that would be an aspect to me is they felt like it was a weight off their shoulders a little bit. With Sean Clark, apparently not Sean Clark, Elliott, his family never moved from Columbia. So that's another aspect, right? Like he gets to be closer and see his kids, play football and sports all the time, see them at home more often. So, Chip Kelly thing's a different one. I don't think he's from the Ohio State area, but he did kind of grow up knowing Ryan Day. So he has previously worked with him and enjoyed that. So I get part of, okay, here's that. We'll lean on this. It's the familiarity with where they went to. Sure. It's not like they didn't pick up and do this in a program that they were brand new to and didn't know anything about. Both of them had ideas and worked with people there. So that was longer than 30 seconds, but I guess that's the biggest thing. It's a comfortable thing, a comfort thing.
I thought going, and I've had some conversations with some former players that I played with and just some guys that I'm friends with from other universities. And, there's message boards and things like that all over the place. And I'm listening to people chime in and the one thing that kind of stands out is everybody kind of leaning on that same thing is this is what we're talking about, right? This is exactly the thing that we're saying is the downfall with college football. We've got college coaches saying the portal is destroying us and it's so hard to recruit against money and this, that, and the third. But then you've also got situations like this. Prime example, right in the heart of, transferred portal time, the coach just ups and leaves after, bringing kids there because they thought he was going to be there, So I don't know. I find it odd. Anyway, wanted to just bring it up because we touched on it a bit with Georgia State and having a new regime and that whole bit, but just didn't know what your thoughts were. And I just thought it was odd. Obviously, I'm always going to respect Sean Elliott, one of my favorite coaches ever at App State. I just thought that was – you got to call a spade, right? I just didn't think it was – I didn't – if I was a guy that he recruited and I came there because he recruited me and then he left – I'd be pissed. I'd probably leave too. My family would be pissed.
Yeah, and that goes again with the loyalty. Like, oh, these kids are leaving the program. Well, look what can happen to them. So don't miss me with the whole like, these kids, just whatever. All right. Now, we both agree though. We'll touch on that for people who are tuning in maybe for the first time. We don't agree with like movement whenever, however.
No.
Okay.
No.
We want some kind of thing on that, like to.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be a complete free agent market.
One free movement, and then the second one needs to be approved by, whoever the NCAA is, and it has to be us. Let us approve it, and it needs to be a legitimate reason. My family issues, or whatever. Yeah. Coach left, which is obviously always a good reason. Something like that needs to have happened. Not just I'm leaving because I'm not getting playing time. You got to thug it out. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to do your thing. So
absolutely. Well, before we go back to the Sun Belt schedule real quick, we did get a non-Sun Belt comment, so we got somebody else tuning in. Kalen DeBoer will take the Crimson Tide to the college football playoff in his first year, will win with Alabama within his first 4 years at Tuscaloosa. You think they can wait that long, TJ? I'm not sure Crimson Tide fans could wait that long.
No, first of all, no, they can't wait that long. Second of all, that is false. That's not happening. Listen, let me explain something to you. Alabama is no longer the king of the mountain. And that is the reason why Saban left. He can't recruit the way he wanted to because people are getting paid now. These kids are openly getting paid now. And anytime you got a kid, I mean, what's the Manning kid down in Texas hadn't played a snap of football, a down, and he's worth $2 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, Alabama, you're going to have to compete just like the rest of us now. So the answer to that is unequivocally no, especially not in the first couple of years. In the first 4 years is going to be a stretch, I think, just because it's the powerhouses are always going to be like you're going to have Ohio State, you're going to have Michigan, you're going to have Alabama, Clemson, Florida State. Maybe Florida State seems to be climbing. We'll see if they can get a defense together. Your teams like that, maybe not so much out west, not a whole bunch. Maybe, I don't know.
USC. maybe.
Yeah, USC maybe, and then what's the team in Washington?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, those teams are going to be those teams regardless. However, it's going to matter now because the talent is going to be. You're no longer. I'll put it this way to you: Alabama's not going to have Derrick Henry and all of these guys back to back to back in their backfield. This isn't Miami in 2000. Like this is. We're not doing that anymore. So.
Yeah. Definitely not doing that anymore. Getting back into the Sun Belt schedule. Artie Cat says, beat the Deadbirds. We need a victory this year in this game. So, yeah, I mean, that's probably – we're going to put App and Clemson up there because it's a chance to beat a ranked team, and Clemson's not, top 5 like they've been. So it's more of a realistic chance. App had a pretty good year last year. It's not like they're rebuilding coming into this one. So that's why
also,
some people –
We're kind of known for doing that. Right, like we knock off ranked teams and big teams a lot. Like it's becoming sort of a norm now more than it is. I don't want to say a norm, but it's more expected than not expected. Like if we lose to Clemson, people will be like, especially based on how Clemson performed last year, going into an App State team this year who has continuity and has most everybody coming back besides our running back. If we beat them, no one will be surprised. It might not even make SportsCenter.
Yeah. And to note, Kanye Roberts had kind of taken that crown towards the end of that year anyway.
Right.
So
much more healthy and a much more diverse back. So
yeah, and just a bigger guy. Although Nate's looking solid at the couple plays I saw him run over in Missouri already. So best of luck to him moving forward. Troy at Memphis, sneaky good one. Troy is going to be interesting though. We've had the Troy boys on the show. We love those guys interacting with them. But losing a head coach, losing some players to both graduation and transfer portal. You're bringing in a head coach from Notre Dame, another good sneaky hire probably.
Sure. Yeah.
Memphis is coming in with one of the best group of 5 quarterbacks. I mean, hell, Hennigan could be one of the best quarterbacks in the country when it comes to, draft potential. Dominic, if he's still watching the show, could definitely comment on that with what he's heard and seen in that realm. But this could be just a really good matchup to check out, especially if Troy does well in that first week game.
Yeah.
Going into a team like Memphis, who's not been quite the elevated team that they have been over the last few years, but still up there. I mean, they're still top of group 5, conversation every time. And then, UTSA at Texas State. If Texas State lives up to the potential, now they've got Jordan McLeod joining the program. I don't know if it's how about this while we're on this discussion right here? TJ Finley, Jordan McLeod, upgrade, downgrade, upgrade. Neutral.
Upgrade.
Downgrade.
And listen, not by much. Please don't misplace what I'm saying. It's not that TJ Finley was he was no deadbeat, but McLeod. I mean, you're talking reigning offensive player of the year.
Yep.
I mean, he's the guy. So and I mean, and it was. I mean, he played for a team that was really really good, but he did all that with a team that didn't have a ton of weapons offensively, right? Like it's not like they were just out there beating people by 40.
No,
he was offensive player of the year playing good football.
Yes, JMU's bread and butter last year was their defense, not allowing very many points.
Exactly.
We said it before the App State game where we saw it. They don't have the ability to just outscore people tremendously. Right. They didn't have an offense that was extremely explosive with a bunch of scary pieces. They have some players in some spots, but they weren't built to just outscore you. They were ball control, defensively going to stuff you, and then have short field because of it. And they were successful that way. So, that'll be really interesting. Artie's saying he thinks it's a definite upgrade, just improve the defense. Yes, we kind of touched on that earlier. They definitely have to improve the defense over there in San Marcos if they want to continue competing at the level that they expect to. Obviously, people thought with TJ Finley, Ishmael Mahdi coming back before now a month or two ago. But with those two coming back, they might have been leaders in the West coming in. Now with McLeod joining the team, maybe they jump back up there as a thought process. Arkansas State's been thought to jump way up there. Mm-hmm. They actually have Malik Hornsby, who was a quarterback sitting on the Texas State roster, who's now transferred to Arkansas State and become a wide receiver. TJ, you are familiar with all of those aspects, both personally and with others around the program at App State at your time there. So that's going to be really interesting. I'm excited to see what both teams do. And I'm excited that we have some new blood. I know it's not completely new, but some kind of newer, exciting aspects to the West side, because we've added that kind of stuff to the East here recently with a lot more teams coming in on the East side. But now some of the teams that have been kind of bottom dwellers here recently, Arkansas State historically has not been, but the last couple of years they have. Now we're getting some excitement back in some of these programs. So I'm excited for week 2. I think there's some shot. I don't know about Marshall or Virginia Tech. I know it's a P5 scalp chance, but I got to see something out of Marshall before I say that I think they go in to Virginia Tech and win.
Yeah, but Virginia Tech was moribund last year. I mean, they were just deplorable.
True.
I mean, and both Virginia and Virginia. Didn't ODU beat both Virginia and Virginia Tech, or did ODU beat Virginia Tech and I think who was
James Madison? James Madison beat Virginia Tech.
James Madison beat Virginia Tech, and ODU beat Virginia.
Oh wait, no, other way around, I think. But I don't think it was last year. I think last year Virginia Tech beat ODU. It was the year before when ODU beat BT.
Okay.
Because they hosted.
You know that Virginia Tech is not anything to be afraid of. It's in your daddy's hokey.
That's true. No, yeah, I think that's more. To me, that's similar to Week 1 matchup with Georgia State and Georgia Tech.
Right, just a Power 5 ranked team win, good for the conference. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's not like it's not completely one sided, like you said. This isn't. It's a power conference team, not a power program at the moment, at least.
Sure.
Virginia Tech has been there. That's not who they are anymore. And then, not because of a win-loss aspect, but just a regional rivalry that's exciting for both sides, I think, is East Carolina ODU. That's not going to excite people nationally, but regionally, I think that's a good matchup, a solid matchup.
Yeah. 2 evenly matched teams, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd actually favor ODU slightly, but East Carolina's always got talent, so they can always pull something. So,
yeah, look out for Roman Magazoo. Roman Magazoo is he's a corner that'll be playing for ECU this year. He'll be a freshman. Dominic Magazoo, he played receiver with me at Appalachian State. We're actually going to the ECU app game this season. So,
nice.
But yeah, be on the lookout for Roman Magazoo. He'll probably start out a lot on special teams. Hopefully, he'll get his feet wet at playing some corner or D-back, safety, maybe nickel a little bit. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled for him. I think he's going to be a real good addition to ECU's defensive backfield. Nice.
And another Dominic, man. We're just up right now, man.
That's just winning.
Winning. Artie's saying he thinks the entire QB controversy is over and dead at Texas State. Hopefully it is. I mean, McLeod's the guy. I don't think now there's any doubt about that. So
it shouldn't be.
No, not anymore. You bring in, like you said, the reigning conference player of the year. There shouldn't be any question marks at that point. No. Week 2 should decide which conference is better in the Sun Belt or American. Yeah, enough
matter.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're jumping ahead, but there is a conversation nationally where people don't agree with that quite yet. We're not going to be the guys who run a Sun Belt show and say that, we're right there. No, the Sun Belt is up.
Yeah.
All right. Week 3, slightly smaller slate than I'd expect to see in week 3, right? You usually see most teams keep going in the out-of-conference matchups. We've got App State traveling to ECU. Just mentioned that one. Definitely a top for personal preferences. Arizona State travels to Texas State. Again, not the most exciting Power 5 team to host, but
it is a good one. I think it'll be, again, another solid P5 win if we, again, not a powerhouse, but certainly a Power 5. I think it'll be a good win for Texas State and a game they can win.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Virginia Tech travels to ODU. We just kind of touched on that in the previous week's talk. Northwestern State, that's down there in Louisiana, travels to South Alabama. Coastal Carolina travels up to Philadelphia to play Temple, the Owls. We've got a coach here locally in the Garner area who's put a couple guys up on Temple's roster. So it'll be interesting to see if Temple can kind of become some kind of sleeping giant. I went to 2 Temple games randomly last year. They're not there yet. They're not even close. But hey, Coastal gets to go to the city of brotherly love. So maybe, a cool road trip, regardless of what happens on the field. Roy travels to Iowa again, Troy's got a tough road to start off with a new coach.
I would say so.
Yeah. South Carolina State travels to Georgia Southern. USF goes to USM. Arkansas State travels to number 13 national champions, last year's national champions, Michigan. TJ, you ever heard of that school?
I might have had a run in with them a time or two.
And then to wrap that one up, Vanderbilt goes to Georgia State, the powerhouse of the SEC. The Vanderbilt Commodores going to Atlanta to not play Georgia Tech, to play Georgia State.
Yeah, the powerhouse of the SEC. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Besides the personal preference that you and I will definitely be at, because it's not far from us there in Greenville, you can expand on that one first if you want to, or round back into it. But what other ones are you hitting up as far as the turning the remote onto those games in week 3?
I think for me, I mean, listen, Iowa and Iowa and Troy. I do think it's going to be a tough game for Troy. Let's start with that. Troy's going to have a tough road in the first couple of weeks regardless. That said, the way Troy's defense played last year and the way that Iowa is incapable of scoring points, it seems like.
Yeah.
I listen, I'm not going to sit here and count them out. And here's the thing, it could be a 13-6 win.
Right.
You know, if Iowa, if Temple plays their cards right, it could be a 13. One big play is all you need. You make a guy miss and you scamper for 30, 40, 50 yards. That's the difference in the ball game. So I would say to the folks watching right now, don't count Troy out against Iowa, because Iowa is not known for scoring. They just cannot score points, and they haven't been able to score points for literally years. I don't know when the last time they scored over 30. I mean, so that's a game I think to keep your eyes peeled for. I'm also kind of interested in the Bulls going over to USM. I think obviously my money is on Southern Miss. I would hope that they get better. I just, like I said, I want them to be good so bad. But I think that should be a fairly even matchup as well. I think the rest, like you said, are just kind of anecdotal, if you will. Arizona State going to Texas State. I'm taking Texas State to win that game. I don't really have much faith in Arizona State at all. Virginia Tech, I think, will beat ODU, not by much, but I do think that'll happen. Coastal, Temple, like you said, they're not ready. No. And Vandy, I'm taking over Georgia State. So, yeah, I think those are the two standout games to me for week 3. It is Troy at Iowa and the Bulls going down to USM. Yeah.
The Bulls of USF, played Alabama close when they hosted them.
That's exactly my point. Yeah. That was before Alabama figured out their quarterback situation.
That's also true. Yeah, you got to be fair there.
And a game that in week 11, it might be a different ball game.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very true. Artie saying ASU, another Big 12 victim. The Big 12 and ACC have finally realized they're not invited to the SEC Big 10 party. That's correct. If they had their way, those two would be gone already. Artie's talking about the Michigan film crew. He may be talking about the Big 10 backers who are part of Dog TV, College Football Dogs. They have some great stuff where they went with the shirts. I think, TJ, you've seen that too. Mm-hmm. Dressed up as the Michigan film crew. They did like toilet paper rolls and everything so they could get a fake camera into the game. And they went to Big 10 schools all season with that. Oh, it's great comedy. Southern Miss should be competitive against, he says UCF, but I think he means South Florida there in that one and hopefully win.
It's easy to get those two confused. Central Florida and South Florida. It's so easy to get them confused.
It is. And if they're going against UCF, though, I would say I favor the Knights in that one. I think the Knights now being in the Big 12, there's going to be a difference there. But, okay, so I pretty much agree across the board with everything you've just said to make this real boring. However, there's one that I'm going to mention, okay? We've seen that Arkansas State has an extremely mobile quarterback who can also throw the ball, who also is the freshman of the year in the football conference of the Sun Belt. And now he's going to be up on the field against a Michigan team who Yeah, they won the national championship, but if you see that number beside their name, they're not thought to be a top 5 or even a top 10 team.
They lost
coming into
almost everybody on offense.
Yep, and they also lost a head coach.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm favoring it, but I'm saying it could be interesting because we've seen it before. There's a recipe that TJ helped cook up. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
Many moons ago, back when about 40 pounds ago.
When you had 2 good knees, right?
Yeah. Now I got 5 good knees. No, I'm with you. I like I said, I mean, Blake Corum's gone. JJ's gone. I don't know, man. I'm not. Listen, and I know you're not doing this. I know you're not picking Arkansas State. You're saying it could very well. There is a recipe there to beat them.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I say I mean, what's a good game for Arkansas State? Keeping it within 20? Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think 20 against a national champion. Now, again, does that outlook change coming into week 3 after what we've seen from week 2 from both teams, not just Arkansas State, but also Michigan?
Yeah. You got to make sure you tie into the fact that we got to see week 1 and week 2. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, because if Michigan comes in 1-1 in week 3, then I mean, maybe you start favoring Arkansas. I mean, I don't know, like one of their starting quarterbacks gets hurt or something. I mean, there's too many unknowns.
There's a lot of ifs. Yeah, absolutely.
But just thought it's interesting. We've seen it before. Could we see it again? I don't know. It'd be fun. It'd be fun. It'd be great for Arkansas State. The fans of Jonesboro. It's true. That's true.
Yeah, imagine what SportsCenter would look like the next day if they pull that off.
And hey, guess what? I bet you might find yourself on the highlights of that same highlight as well.
Probably running my mouth as usual.
And Artie mentions Georgia State could be an upset as well. I wouldn't even say that's. It would be an upset. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it would be a very big upset. Like
no, I mean, I don't even. Again, not even something that would ODU beating Virginia Tech and Georgia State beating Vandy would not even make SportsCenter.
Yeah, they would mention it, but they wouldn't have
it'd be like the bottom tick. Yeah, like okay, cool. We know they aren't good.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So week 4, we start off with a Thursday conference game as South Alabama travels to Boone to face App State. Tulane travels to Louisiana. Georgia Southern goes on the road to number 6 Ole Miss. James Madison travels right here locally to face UNC. Virginia travels to Coastal Carolina. USM goes on the road to Jackson State. Marshall travels to number 2 in the country, Ohio State. ULM always seems to play the Texas and Alabamas of the world, but they play Texas, number 4 currently in week 4. The Rattlers of Florida A&M travel to Troy, and Arkansas State doesn't get a whole lot easier, but definitely a little bit easier of a game here against Iowa State, but again, on the road there in that one. What do you think about week 4 slate here? And starting with the conference game on a Thursday in week 4 already.
Yeah. First of all, lots of colors. Love that. Yeah. I mean, obviously App State, South Alabama, I'm taking us, but obviously a game to watch for multiple reasons. Number 1, conference game. Tulane going down to Louisiana. That is going to be a good one.
Yes.
That is going to be a football game, and I would suggest that everybody that's under the sound of our voices right now, you better be tuned in because that is going to be – I mean, that defensive line of Tulane versus, the Cajuns' offense weapons, I think that is going to be something that – mark your calendars for that one. Unfortunately, Georgia Southern, not even close. JMU and Carolina, listen – that's going to be a good that's going to have – it's going to depend on a lot of things, right? We need to know who JMU is. And coming into this game, they should have a good idea or a good handle on who they are at that point, right? You're losing your quarterback. You lost your head coach, lost a lot of a lot of your team. Next man up mentality, transfers in, that kind of thing. I don't want to base my opinion on what I saw last year because obviously that's literally a completely different football team.
Yes.
That said, I think going into an unranked Carolina football team, they're beatable. They can be had. App State's done it multiple times. They can be had for sure.
Lost their quarterback too.
Yep, absolutely. I think Virginia. Listen, Coastal is going to demolish Virginia. I don't think that'll be close. I think they win by 2 touchdowns at least 2 touchdowns. Other standout games, I think honestly that's about it as far as games that stand out to me. I don't think it gets any much easier for Arkansas State. I don't think they beat Iowa. Obviously, Ohio State, dog walks Marshall. Jacksonville State and USM could be a fairly good game.
Yeah.
But yeah, Texas over ULM big.
Yeah. That one's pretty much undoubted with what Texas has got coming back. When you have a $2 million quarterback who's not even your starter, I don't know how you expect to beat that team.
Right.
I will say that I am not a fan of the extremely early and midweek conference games like this early in the season. So I don't really love the fact South Alabama's traveling up the mountain that early on a Thursday. On a Saturday.
At least they're coming up the mountain, not us going down it.
True. That's true. Tulane now has their head man who was at Troy. So, there's a lot of familiarity with the Cajun team there. So that's what makes that aspect even more interesting. Like you mentioned, already a game without that aspect. But now when you think about it in that realm, I don't think Ole Miss and Georgia Southern stays close very long, unfortunately, for them. But James Madison, I do think, could be primed for a win over UNC. We've seen it time and time again. UNC overrated. They're not ranked currently coming in. Right. So could they be even more? Right. Interesting aspect. I mean, I don't know if I would say Coastal 2 touchdowns over Virginia, but I do think Coastal can absolutely win that game. We've seen them host Kansas, who honestly probably is a better program than Virginia is. Sure. But maybe if you go back in time, Virginia and what Kansas used to be are kind of similar. I mean, Virginia's not anything in football. I couldn't even name you one single player on Virginia's roster last year.
No, I don't know anybody. I don't know. And their basketball team, while they're good, they are boring. Oh my God, they are awful. I mean,
like Iowa's football team, right? Like no offense, all defense. Yes.
I respect the process and I respect the game, but Jesus Christ, God forgive me, I just cannot watch them play basketball. It's like watching paint dry.
Oh,
it's like 43 passes before a shot is made. Nobody's dribbling. There's no standout. I don't know of a standout player in the NBA that came from Virginia. Think about it.
Well,
name me one. Name me a standout, like a star in the NBA, or even a serviceable, like off the bench guy from Virginia.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Is I couldn't even name you one of those guys. So
right.
No. So again, like you said, all the credit for the work and effort it takes to win national championships.
Mad respect. Yeah, mad respect. I just can't watch it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Dominic says JMU and UNC, 2 teams trying to figure out who they are. Intriguing matchup. Absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt about 100%. It. Yeah. Artie, I hope he's joking, says ULM for the upset. Old Mac Brown with his early 2000s football schemes. Florida A&M and Troy could be sneaky. FAMU 12-1 last season and have a new head coach. To be honest, I won't lie to you. Did not know Florida A&M went 12-1 last year.
They did really well last year.
Yeah, I knew they were good. I forgot they went 12-1. Were they in the Celebration Bowl? Was that them?
Oh no, you're making me think. I don't remember.
They might have been them.
Google knows.
Google does know. I'll let you look that up as I read Artie Katz's other one. Virginia sports are always hyped, but never very good. Well, basketball, basketball's pretty good. But again, like TJ said, we see a lot of them here because we get a lot of ACC matchups. I'm never turning on a Virginia matchup. I'm just not doing it. It's not what you want it to be when you turn it on and have exciting back and forth basketball. It's a really slow paced, very defensive look. What'd you find on Florida A&M? Anything just yet?
Yep, Howard versus Florida A&M last year
in the Celebration Bowl.
Yep.
Who did they win that one, or was that their one loss?
30-26, FAMU won.
Okay. Yep. So Howard took the spot that NC Central was trying to get, and that's why NC Central ended up in the FCS playoff. So.
Right.
Our little local team here in Durham, unfortunately, bowed out.
Who also had a really good year.
They did.
Shout out to Central.
Yeah, who had a quarterback who, I mean, I don't know the likelihood he ends up on an NFL roster. Maybe like a preferred tryout type of situation.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Big kid. I mean, unfortunately, you don't get a lot of credit for doing a lot of things phenomenally at that level.
Right.
Not the FCS level. I'm not talking about just the FCS. I'm talking about like at the MEAC level. Unfortunately, they're not gonna. Yeah. You got to prove it when you go to one of these combines or Shrine or Senior Bowls, and he didn't get to participate in that, unfortunately. But hopefully he gets a shot. I mean, he's definitely got a talent. Big arm, big kid too, really.
Absolutely, huge kid.
Week 5, we've got a couple interesting matchups. South Alabama travels to number 12 LSU. The one that's probably the highlight at this point for us personally and for just the G5 in general. Liberty travels to Boone to play App State.
I already know how you feel about that one.
I want to hammer the hell out of Liberty. I want to leave no doubt. I don't want to be any kind of conversation. So I hope it's a slaughter. ODU travels to Bowling Green. Ball State travels to James Madison. This one's going to be a fun one. Texas State plays Sam Houston State.
Oh yeah,
in Houston. I guess the way that they had it labeled makes me think it's probably going to be at NRG Stadium or wherever the Texans play now, whatever that's called. So not a true home game for either team, although I guess
but a fun Houston.
One. Yeah, but they're probably going to need it if Texas State gets off to a hot start. They're going.
I was just getting ready to say Texas State might be bringing the whole San Antonio with them.
Yeah, this one's the sneaky one, or not? I don't even know if it's sneaky. It's one that's a very obvious chance for a Sun Belt win over Power 5.
I'm already taking the case.
Not institution, but school. Ragin' Cajuns travel up to Winston-Salem, North Carolina to play Wake Forest. Now, if Liberty and App and that one are far enough apart, I'm going to be trying to make it to both games that Saturday. I'll be honest with you. Georgia Southern and Georgia State go at it, all right? They're both of them, don't want to say they're their true rival, but these two teams hate each other. So that one's interesting for that aspect. ULM travels to Troy. And finally, Western Michigan goes to Marshall to play the Thundering Herd. All right, the obvious one, what do you want to expand on with the Liberty game in App State?
Yeah, like you said, I don't want there to be a question. I don't hate Liberty the way you hate them, but I do think that they're a little big for their britches, right? Like they had a couple good years of success. Like, so calm down, bro. Like we've been doing this. You just got here, so let the grown folks talk. But that said, like you said, I share the same sentiments. Like, relax, let us do this, and I want to leave no doubt at least 3 or 4 touchdowns. Outside of that, I don't see a whole lot of standouts. Again, Texas or North Texas. I'm sorry, Texas State, Sam Houston, San Antonio. Yeah, they're gonna. I mean, that's going to be a hell of a game. I'm picking Louisiana over Wake Forest, and I'm probably not. And maybe it's a heart pick over my head pick, because I know going to Wake Forest, especially playing in Winston, they make you play sloppy, just like they do in basketball. They make you play just bad football. It's just, they make you work for it. But I'm taking Louisiana. Just they're better athletically on offense. Wake Forest has been exploitable on defense. Sam Hartman obviously is gone. He left year prior, but I don't even know who their quarterback is now.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, and then Georgia. I mean, obviously Georgia Southern, Georgia State rival. Conference game. ULM, Troy conference game. Although I'm taking Troy, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to make of the Marshall game. I don't, because I don't know who Marshall is, man. Like they did not play well last year. They just didn't. No.
Well, they started off playing really well. I mean,
right. Well, that's what I mean. They rattled off like 4 straight wins, and then like 6 L's all the way down the road. I'm like, how the hell does that happen?
Yeah. I didn't know how to explain that team last year either. So that's the same. I'm with you on that. Like you don't know enough yet to say that. But I mean, I would hope they beat Western Michigan. I'll say that. But
right, I hope so too, but who knows?
Especially at home. I guess that's the biggest differentiator for me, right? Going on the road is not easy to do. So you're hosting, you got to win that one. Right. I think the Cajuns have a great shot at Wake Forest. The Georgia matchup is again, by that time, I think we know what both teams are. So we're really going to know who to favor going into that one.
Sure.
And then that's going to make that one elevated because neither one of them wants to lose to the other. And to note with the Cajun Wake Forest matchup, remember, ODU went into Wake Forest last year, had a big-time lead at halftime.
Right.
Ended up blowing it and then losing that game. But again, like you said.
That was the game I was at work. And then we talked about it. And my wife texted me, was like, are you seeing what's happening? And then I get home and it's in overtime. I'm like, what the hell?
Oh, that was the bowl game. The same kind of thing happened in their bowl game.
Oh, that's right. That was the bowl game. Yeah.
The
Okay.
Wake Forest game was like, I don't know, week 2 or 3 last year.
Right.
And I'm looking at the score and you know, the year before they had Sam Hartman, like you had mentioned, they had been pretty good. And so I expected them, even with another quarterback, to be pretty good. And a lot of people thought they'd still be, you know, a winning program that year. And, you know, ODU jumped out big. And I was like, wow, this is awesome for the conference, man. I mean, Wake Forest isn't, you know, a national power or anything, but a great win we're about to have. And then that was one of those things where you go to Boone, you lose total reception, you come out from the game, you finally get reception going down the mountain, and I'm like, what the hell happened?
Right.
We had this one.
Someone explain.
Yeah. I need to see highlights here. How did this go down? Artie says the game against Sam Houston in Houston, Texas should be fun. We had a 96-year rivalry from 1915 to 2011. So they're renewing this. So yeah, that one's got some juice that this is kind of like Texas State and Rice in the bowl game.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
This is a regional one that people care about. So I don't need to see Sam Houston get invited to the Sun Belt anytime soon, but very cool that they're doing this again for the fans down there to see regionally. Jumping into week 6, we really start getting into the conference slate from pretty much here on out. Another Thursday matchup, another one that you can see why they put this one on prime time on a Thursday night. You've got Texas State traveling to Troy on Saturday. Oh, yeah. And Saturday, you've got App State traveling to Marshall, James Madison to ULM. Not an easy road trip. Raging Cajuns on the road against the Golden Eagles of Southern Miss. ODU travels to Coastal Carolina. South Alabama goes to Jonesboro to play Arkansas State. Again, is there any game bigger than the first one on Thursday for you?
No. I think that's the immediate standout that everybody that's listening to us should be watching. I mean, Texas State. You know, listen, Jordan is going to probably put on a show. I would hope, you know, Troy's defense, like we said last year, was phenomenal. Looking for them to have that same defensive impact. I think it's going to be two Titans, two heavyweights going at it on Thursday night for sure.
Yeah. Artie says we must get the Troy monkey off our back this year as well. So they've had a tough time recently with Troy, and easy to see why, right? I mean, we've seen Troy win this conference here the last few years, and just, you know, not an easy team to get a victory over. Again, replacing some staff, replacing some players, but they've got the culture, history, and tradition over the last couple of years, and they had it in FCS before they moved up to when they were Troy State, before they just went to shorten it to Troy. So this is not a also ran, you know, come around every once in a while little program anymore. This is Troy Trojans have stepped up to the plate, and I expect them to stick around. And great matchup since Texas State seems to be making their move up towards the top over there in the West and in the Sun Belt in general. It seems like App State Marshall, historic matchup, right? Probably not as exciting because where we think or expect Marshall to be going into next season. James Madison ULM, maybe closer because we still are learning about James Madison, but
by then I think we'll know, though. I think we'll know who James Madison is by week 6, right?
True. Good point. Now, what we've heard, or what I've heard specifically, is ULM not an easy place to travel to. Not a ton of fans. A weird shaped, you know, stadium because it's got that one side that's massive, the other side's kind of smaller. Right. It's kind of vertical instead of like a slow. Anyway, just a weird place to play a game. We saw App State go down there and struggle last year. Had to win that with that 50+ yard field goal, you know, on the last second. So, yeah. It's scary for somebody like that. But Cajuns at USM, that one could be good. Again, by then we'll know what both teams are, so we should see who to favor going into that one. The rest of the slate, maybe trails off toward the end there.
Obviously big games because they're conference games, but for the most part, you expect what you expect, right? Tough conference games, tough matchups, you know, pretty evenly matched teams for the most part. I think ODU and Coastal's fairly evenly matched, right? Or at least based off last year. I mean, obviously, all of this, everything we're talking about, is based off last year's performance. We have nothing to go off of as of yet. So, more than what we know about transfers and things like that.
Right.
Yeah. 2 regular, if you will, games.
Yeah, absolutely. This is we got through the weeks that were jam packed, so everything's going to be a little bit faster here as we get towards the midpoint and towards the end. But again, conference heavy slate, or conference only slate, really, pretty much from here on out, except sans a couple matchups here in the later part of the season. Thursday night in Week 7, Coastal Carolina travels to James Madison.
That'll be a good one.
I don't think this is any kind of like true rivalry, but these two programs have not liked each other very much here,
and I don't even know why.
James Madison, JMU is come in and think they're the power program right away, and in most respects, that's pretty much true. Really,
I was going to say because they have been.
Yeah, and Coastal Carolina has been like, no, this is us. We came in during COVID and jumped up here, and we're trying to stay. So far they haven't, but they have had moments. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if they can kind of return to it. But that's definitely another marquee matchup. App State travels on the road to Louisiana. You and I were hoping this one would be a midweek game because it might be easier for us to get down there and travel to.
Right.
But I'm still going to probably be trying to get to that because I always have a good time when I get down there to Lafayette. Arkansas
on Brody's football schedule.
Yeah, exactly. And my kid's schedule too. At this point, I don't even know what sport he's going to be. He's going to be in lacrosse and soccer soon.
There's no telling.
No. Arkansas State travels to Texas State again with where we expect the West to be. This one with where they could be the marquee matchup, not just in the Sun Belt. Honestly, you've got one of these two teams flirting with a ranking. This one gets elevated to national TV or something.
Right.
I can easily see that. Then after that, yes, I think this week dies down quite a bit. You got Marshall traveling to Georgia Southern, ODU traveling to Georgia State, and USM on the road at ULM. I think those 3 on the left there are far superior matchups of what you've got on the right. And honestly, besides the App State aspect from us, the App State Louisiana one may not be.
I don't think nationally. Nationally, I don't think many people will tune in. And maybe just because of the App State draw. I mean, and then you're only talking one side of the country. So, but apart from that, no. But certainly JMU at Coastal and Arkansas State and Texas State, great games, I think. Yeah, or at least has the potential to be anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the potential is there. Artie Cat says, I like the Thursday games. Yeah, JMU also too big for their britches. So there's a lot of people. You know what's funny is as much as they talk and as much as we haven't seen a lot of their fans interact with us on here. We got a lot of the Southern teams, but JMU so far not jumping on, talking a lot of garbage so far. So it's interesting that I haven't seen more of that.
It takes them a while to get ramped up. We'll see.
Yeah, I guess so. They got to learn where to find us. I've been trying to get into the James Madison group for a while to share some stuff, and if you don't bleed purple, if you don't bleed purple, apparently you're not allowed. I'm like, I'm not coming here to cause trouble, but hey, whatever. We'll get there someday. Week 8, we've got 2 midweek games. I really don't like 2 midweek games because we're trying to put shows together. We're trying to do research. We got to watch 2 games during the week and get prep for Saturday. But regardless,
listen, I'm not complaining. There's worse things. Okay,
there's worse things.
Give me Tuesday football rather than no football. So
yeah, but sometimes you like to watch a game you're not responsible for taking notes on or being so intrigued with. But it is what it is. Again, I don't hate it. It's just sometimes
a lot of work for you and I, for real.
Yeah, exactly. So Tuesday, you've got the historic matchup where Troy goes against South Alabama in Mobile. So that one is a Western Conference matchup that nobody over there ever wants to miss because those 2 teams are like App State and Georgia Southern. They do not like each other. Right. Thursday, you've got Georgia State traveling to Marshall. Not a big draw there, to be honest. Sorry. Arkansas State on the road to USM. James Madison travels to Statesboro, Georgia, where note that a couple years ago as JMU came in as a ranked team, Georgia Southern, once again, they beat App as a ranked team in Statesboro. They beat James Madison down there in Statesboro as a ranked team. So sneaky matchup, even if Georgia Southern still remains down this year. Cajuns travel on the road to Conway to finally get that game in for the conference championship from the COVID year that never actually took place. So that one's got some intrigue because those programs don't like each other either. The Cajuns felt like they were ducked by Coastal on purpose so they could walk away with the trophy, I guess, even though technically they never won it. And Coastal thinks that they shouldn't even had to play the game because they already beat Louisiana earlier that season. So that one got more headlines than some people may think if they go back a few years. Texas State travels on the road to play ODU. Man, without an app game that week, Norfolk's only about 3 hours from us, TJ. That one may be
I was going to say, that's going to be a tough matchup for ODU.
Yeah. Or if the Cajuns and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers come in as a big game, that one's also about 3 hours from us down there.
That's true. We got two pretty good, depending how these teams play out in week 8.
Yeah.
Two really good potential matchups.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. And I think, again, that one on Thursday, it's been low scoring here as of late, but Troy versus South Alabama's always got some heat to it.
Sure.
We'll have to have the Troy boys on to talk that matchup. And
they'll have some things to say, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we should have a versus series where we have them go up against the Jags Nation podcast guys over there. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. Artie Cat says Bobcats' first game versus ODU in football. Yeah, that could be interesting because you don't have history there and you don't have coaches and players that are familiar with each other, right? So cross division matchup could be interesting. That's not an easy travel for Texas State. You're getting about as far to the East Coast as you can get in the Sun Belt with ODU over there. So we'll have to see where that one goes. Week 9, just one weeknight game on this one. Back to Thursday night as Georgia Southern travels to Norfolk. We just mentioned them at ODU. Georgia State travels to App State, at which they have never won. Actually, in general, they've never beaten Appalachian State.
I was going to say never. Yeah.
Yeah. The juice there is not there probably.
Not worth the squeeze, that's for sure.
No. USM goes on the road to play James Madison. Troy travels to Arkansas State. At this point, I'm picking that as my game of the week. And ULM goes to Mobile to play South Alabama. So you just said you agree, right? Texas or Troy at Arkansas State?
Yeah, that's probably the only draw this week.
Yeah. Yeah, unless Southern Miss jumps up out of nowhere and JMU returns to form.
Yeah. I mean, listen, ODU and Georgia Southern has potential, right? Depending on what happens this time of the year. But I think as it stands now, the draw is Troy. At Arkansas State.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree with that 100%. So that one's pretty cut and dry there. That one's I guess that's essentially your Halloween week for all the kids that are watching who may still be in college. That's your dress up game, your get crazy game there at the end of October. Yeah, I guess so, because you're not going into November, right? You're not doing Halloween after Halloween, right?
Texas State and Louisiana, they might have a pretty good Halloween. Yeah,
actually, that's a good point, because we've seen
there'll be no classes on Wednesday, that's for sure.
Yeah. We've seen in the past. There was a little game against Wofford that you participated in that was on a Halloween night on a weekday.
Jeez,
and
Thursday.
Crazy atmosphere. So have fun down there. Yeah. So good that you got to punt in that one.
Yeah, I got to punt in that game.
Oh, man. So, so Tuesday, October 29th, you've got the Cajuns traveling to Texas State again. If Texas State lives up to expectations and the Cajuns go up towards the top of the conference, that one's a must-see. Georgia State travels to UConn, an out-of-conference matchup. Again, getting into some of those later ones in the season. I would hope they beat UConn. I guess you're traveling all the way up there. That's what makes that aspect tough, but I don't think UConn's a scary team for any reason.
No.
Coastal Carolina travels to Troy. Georgia Southern goes on the road to South Alabama. ODU travels to App State. ULM at Marshall. Any of those? I mean, maybe Coastal at Troy jumps above Louisiana and Texas State if it plays out right for them, I guess. I don't.
Yeah, I think Troy and Coastal could be a good one depending on where Coastal is. We got to see. I mean, they got to have a better year than last year, right? I mean, it got bad. It got really bad. So, we hope.
You've got a transfer quarterback from Michigan State, Noah Kim, coming in to Coastal.
Yeah.
We haven't really mentioned him just yet, but you've also got the guy there who was great with his legs last year, just needed to work on the arm accuracy in Vasco. So that'll be a little bit of a battle. It wouldn't shock me to see Vasco start the year off with what intangibles he brings. I don't know about Noah Kim's scrambling ability, so I can't really speak to that. I would assume he's a better pocket passer, having been at a Power 5 program and recruited there and played some games there. But I guess that's the part that remains to be seen. I mean, I guess when you're a Tim Beck, the head coach there, when you're a head coach who is a quarterback's coach who's bringing in a transfer quarterback, you think there's something about that guy he likes and wants to bring in.
Right.
So I guess by this point, obviously we'll know that.
Yeah. He has something that they obviously were missing last year for sure.
Yeah. Artie Cat says another must win for the Bobcats if we want to compete for the West title.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. I'm excited to see that again, it's on a Tuesday, weird night, but I'm excited to see that.
Yeah,
it's odd too, having a Saturday and then a Tuesday game, right? I think that's just so tough and unfair.
Did they play? They played the week before? Oh, they have the week off.
Oh no, this is week 9. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, so they got a little mini bye. All right.
I was going to say that would be unfair, and I'd be immediately saying we're not doing that.
I was thinking week 8 because I saw Texas played it on Saturday at week 8 or Texas.
Yeah. Your guys are just getting out of the ice bath and putting their pads back on to go back at it again at that point. Right.
You don't even have time to game plan.
He says, man, only week 9, and the schedule shows how competitive the Sun Belt is now. Very few gimme games. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even though we're not talking about some of these as big matchups, it's not saying one team's easily going to beat the other.
Sure, absolutely.
Could, but we're not. That's not what we're speaking into existence here. Week 11, Thursday night matchup once again for App State as they travel on the road to Conway. We got to make our way down there for this one, right, TJ?
Yeah.
Then you've got Arkansas State traveling to Louisiana, Georgia State at James Madison, Marshall at Southern Miss, Texas State at ULM. So Texas State may get a little bit of a break there after some tough games.
Right. But Artie said, there's no gimmies.
That's true. It's not. And we just mentioned how tough it is to sometimes go on the road and play there at ULM. The advantage for Texas State is having been on that west side, they see them pretty much every year, whereas East teams come over with no real experience from a year or so ago. I'm trying to think of which one I'm favoring here, whether it's at versus Coastal, Arkansas State versus the Cajuns. And those are my two that I'm leaning toward.
And I'm right there with you. I think I'll have to see where Arkansas State is at this point. Arkansas State's got a tough season. They play some really good football teams. So I've got to see where they stack up this time of the year. But I think this could be a very good Saturday football game. The good news is we don't have to choose.
That's true.
At plays Thursday, against Coastal, and the Cajuns. Those guys play on Saturday. So the good news is we don't have to choose. However, as far as the biggest draw, it would have to depend on where Arkansas State is this time of the year. But the rest, I think, are average at best games.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, hell, you stagger this Saturday well enough, you have very few crossover where you can essentially watch almost the whole day of Sun Belt Conference football without having to move around too much. Artie brings up a good point. A Herd versus Southern Miss will be intriguing. Two historic programs playing each other. Yeah, maybe not the most exciting score, maybe not putting the most explosive of players on screen as far as name and brands go.
Sure.
But brands as far as the school goes, yes. I mean, these Marshall's got the movie that's made after him, and unfortunately due to tragic circumstances, but obviously a name and program people are well aware of. Again, the Nasty Bunch and what Southern Miss has done in the past. Brett Favre being a guy who graduated from there. Again, historic programs for sure, and we'll see if Marshall and USM can get back on track, because that just adds to the intrigue and fun of a regional conference such as this in the Sun Belt. So week 12, one big one for an out-of-conference matchup. I don't think one will get a win over, although we saw who was it? Was it New Mexico State go in there and beat Auburn last year? Was that
last year? Yeah.
So ULM's got a shot
last year.
Yeah. So ULM may have a shot. I mean, Auburn's not a ranked team. I don't expect them to be ranked at week 12 next year either. You got Arkansas State traveling to Atlanta to play Georgia State. Conway is not the host. Huntington, West Virginia will be the host site of Coastal Carolina and Marshall. James Madison goes on the road to Norfolk to play ODU, a nice inter-Virginia matchup there. South Alabama. Yeah, South Alabama goes to play Louisiana, USM at Texas State, and Troy at Georgia Southern. Okay, so this one's a tough one for me.
I was thinking, okay, so we're on the same page.
Where is your game of the week here? I mean, again, lots of unknowns at this point about where people will be. But
sure, but just based off what we saw last year and what we know going into this year, I think JMU and ODU could be a really good game. Yeah. I think that has the potential. The reason for a lot of reasons. Okay, so first of all, obviously Virginia Tech and Virginia are not going to be the draw this year. Anybody who knows college, not just take away your casual fan, right? Because your casual fan is always going to pick Virginia Tech. Anytime they see the VT, they're going to associate that with history. But any real football fan knows that this is the draw, not Virginia Tech versus Virginia, who are, I think, likely going to play each other. So this is going to be the biggest game in Virginia this year. But I also think, depending on how South Alabama seasons go and where they are this time of year, they could give Louisiana a good run. I don't think USM is going to play Texas State tough enough anyway. I think Texas State they're going to have too much. Troy and Georgia Southern is going to be intriguing because of the travel. I think, again, you're still in the South, but that's a pretty hefty trip for Troy to make, going over to the East, especially last game of the season. And depending where Georgia Southern is, they may need that game, and Troy may not. So, you know, it's one of those things where.
Well, just real quick, we're on week 12, not 14, so we have 2 more weeks. Not quite the end of the year yet.
Okay,
not
that's
quite.
fair.
We're close. But like you said, at this point, what are you looking at with where Georgia Southern is and where Troy's now at with what they got to do going into this season? And Artie's also saying Bobcats versus Southern Miss stands at 2-2. So all-time series, someone will take the lead in this one, as we know. Cannot tie games in college football like you can in the NFL, right?
That is true.
So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. James Madison ODU is the most intriguing matchup because of just the regional trash-talking aspect, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, it may not be the best score as far as the week goes, but going in, I think it's going to be the biggest intrigue, unless you've got something crazy, you know, like one's undefeated and one's a one-loss team somewhere else or something.
Right, exactly. Like you said, unless something crazy happens, I think this is the one.
Yeah. You know, maybe if Auburn somehow is ranked because they've gone through SEC play with only like one loss or something, and ULM's got a chance because, you know, they're a winning program at this point. Or so, again, you know, something could surprise, but outside before the season ever gets rolling, I'm favoring the Virginia matchup. Week 13, just before Thanksgiving, we've got Georgia Southern traveling to Conway to play Coastal Carolina, Georgia State going to San Marcos to play Texas State, James Madison at Appalachian State. Yes, I changed my inflection on that one for a reason. We got Marshall traveling to ODU, South Alabama, Southern Miss, Troy at Louisiana, and ULM at Arkansas State. So for me, it's James Madison at App State without a shadow of a doubt. But you've also got Troy at Louisiana as a good possibility at this point. I'm not quite sure Georgia State lives up to any crazy win expectations to make that one going to San Marcos all that interesting at this late point of the season. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. I don't think Georgia State has enough for Texas State. I think Troy and Louisiana is going to be a great game. I think almost as good as JMU App State, depending on what JMU team we see next year. But I think a sneaky good game is Georgia Southern and Coastal. Georgia Southern traveling down to Conway. I think that's going to be a sneaky good game. Again, we keep saying depending upon where teams are because we don't have a choice, right? We have to say that.
Yeah, we just don't know.
Right.
Especially this deep.
Right. But I think that could be a very sneaky good game depending on where those teams are in the season and how their record shakes out. Two teams that could need this kind of win to get into bowl eligibility. So
very good point.
Yeah, so I think that could be a sneaky big game, especially that time. You're thinking, team is 6-6 or something like that going into that game. This is a big one for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And to mention, a couple years ago they had that dance off across field from each other. If you remember that made Sports Center and everything. It's kind of comical now looking back at it, but it was something that kind of came out of nowhere. So like you said, this has intrigue for more than just possible record, just from a little bit of a weird history as far as something sparked somebody in that one to go at each other. And yeah, I think a little more intriguing than, like you said, just because we don't know, but that's an aspect that people want to care about. So
sure.
Getting into week 14, we do have one
8-week
weekday game. Technically, it's a Friday night game. So, take that for what's worth. That's kind of a weekend game.
I love, just side note, I used to love when we had Friday night football games. That was the best time to have a football. Thursday night and Friday nights were absolutely perfect because, well, for a lot of reasons. But number one, you get the weekend off. Like Coach gave us we had the entire weekend off. Like when we had Thursday games, we practiced on Sunday, but it was Sunday evening. It was a walkthrough. But whenever we played Friday, you get Friday night and Saturday night, and then all day Sunday, we would have a cookout.
Oh, nice.
And so then you go back to practice Monday through Friday. Friday night games were the best. And you can ask anybody. I don't know how many people are still watching that played ball with us, but Friday night football games were just outstanding. You can't beat it with a stick because you had everybody's partying Friday night except you because you got a Saturday football game.
Yeah.
Right? You can't go anywhere and do anything. But after the game on a Friday night, and then you got all day Saturday to just wake up and throw something on the grill. I mean, it was great. It was great. Just a sidebar.
So that's where you got the skills from, TJ. You were practicing during the season.
It's been happening for a long time. Me and I don't know if you remember old Gary Tharrington.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was me and him, we used to hold it down.
Nice. I love it. And we'll get to see that all here somewhat shortly. We'll again, still putting all that together, but
we got plans.
Artie's chiming in the congrats to Major Applewhite.
Great.
Yep. Yeah, he was great at UT, and I love the Jag Stadium. Yeah, it's a nice stadium, that's for sure. Definitely better than what they had, where they used to host the Senior Bowl. Now they do it at the nice new stadium as well. But is it Hancock Whitney or something crazy, like some old school dinosaur concrete stadium that had no real great amenities or something? Anyway, yeah. Good that they've gotten out of that and they're into comfy confines of a much, much nicer stadium at this point. Right. Probably helping with recruiting quite a bit to go down there to Mobile and play it in a nice brand new stadium. So I guess to touch on this, right, you got App State, Georgia Southern. Is there anything that takes a cake over that, even though we got a Friday night matchup? No, I mean, for me, that again, it's personal. Hate week, Georgia Southern. For me, if you're asking me, that's the game of games. But I do think Texas State and South Alabama could be a really good one, depending on where South Alabama is. I think Texas State is going to be good all year. I think they're going to be a really good football team for the entirety of the year. I think JMU, again, we hope Marshall's good. We don't know. Maybe ODU and Arkansas State, but the draw is App State, Georgia Southern. Because it's just always a good game. It doesn't matter what these teams' records are. App State, Georgia Southern is always good. Yeah, you know what? One of the best games in recent memory was really year before last, where they actually ended up playing for bowl eligibility. Right. Unfortunately, App lost that one, but I mean, I think even outsiders that were watching that game probably thought it was a crazy atmosphere. It got even crazier at the end, and those kids are putting it all on the line because they know it's possibly their last game of the year. Sure. So that was kind of a really fun one to take in. It was a heartbreaker for us on a certain side. But that's kind of that's what makes college great, right? I mean, the chance to play another day is what they're going after, and do it against your heated rival. That's got to be great. So speaking of that's got the heat, that's got the intensity. I don't see another game on here that's anywhere close. I guess the only thing you could say is like as far as like a traditional rivalry, you've got the Cajuns going against the Warhawks, and that seems to be the way they end every year too. And they kind of have that aspect of App State, Georgia Southern, at least recently, where even if the Cajuns are the better team, ULM has jumped up and surprised them a few times.
Right.
But I say all that to say this. Do we not try and hit like rivalry week harder from now on? Like,
yeah, we should.
I want to save ODU James Madison for the last game over there.
Right.
Or maybe you shuffle it around because, App State technically seems to have like 3 rivals, right? Like James Madison's become a very quick one. You've got a historic one with Marshall if they ever get back up. You've got Georgia Southern, which is the easy one to pick because it's the most hated. And then you've even got Coastal Carolina.
It's weird to say Coastal is starting to be I know I went to the game and I was on the field and I was getting all kind of middle fingers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Jesus, guys, I don't even know you. I barely played against you guys. So, yeah, that became a rival very quickly.
Yeah. Roberts, again, joining us for the first time, says Coastal and Georgia State, the home team, has never won. I do remember hearing that in the past, so that's a very, very interesting aspect to that one. That's one of those ones where, like, again, as an App fan and probably even as a Georgia Southern fan, you don't want to miss that one.
Right.
But if you have to lean on other things that make sense historically that you can hope to build upon, those natural rivalries, regional rivalries could make sense to focus on this last week. Or like you've got crazy stuff like ODU going to Arkansas State. I mean, unless one of those teams is phenomenal, neither one of those fan bases probably care about that matchup that much, right?
Yeah, at all. Unless both teams are like fighting for a playoff spot a bowl game, or for some reason both teams are just randomly undefeated, which I don't think is going to happen. So
right. I mean, Marshall and James Madison, that's not a bad regional rivalry. I mean, I don't think they're that close. That's why I'd favor James Madison ODU more.
Sure.
That would leave Marshall and App State being a pretty natural one. Again, historic one from back in the SoCon days. So that one could make sense. And you could probably pair Georgia Southern with Georgia State. Again, kind of just makes sense. Coastal would be out on an island at that point, though. So, like, who do you match them up with? Again, you've got 7 on each side. So you're going to have at least one cross-division rivalry. So that is what makes it tough. Troy used to be in the East. Maybe you kind of pair them up with Coastal or, it's tough. It is tough. I will say that. It's not easy, but I'd like to see.
But wouldn't you pair Georgia State with Coastal? Because Georgia Southern already has us, but I guess Georgia State has Georgia Southern as well, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I guess like when I was thinking about it just now, I was thinking kind of from the top down. Like, let's cover like Marshall's out kind of in an island, right? I mean, they're probably, again, their closest rival or close. I don't want to say rival. They're not rival, but their closest game in the Sun Belt, like driving wise, is probably James Madison.
Right.
So, you think like those two are close. I mean, that one's on the list in this last week here. So yeah, it doesn't work out evenly, where it's like a nice clean, like, oh, this makes perfect sense across the board. So that's probably unfortunate part. But, a lot of these other conferences have some like at least 5 or 6 good quality rivals that they always end the year with, and it's pretty consistent. I don't feel like besides App and Georgia Southern, this conference does anything to keep these happening every year at the end of the year, right? So
and they should.
I'd like to see more consistency at the end of the year with some of these teams, I guess is what I'm asking for. And I know that's not our call, but that's what I'd like to see. So like you said, if it's a battle for a bowl spot, or just the fact that like one team has got 2 wins and the other team is a 10-win team already, and they want to take them down, like, and there's heat to it. I mean, that's a draw. Whereas ODU versus Arkansas State probably isn't going to provide us that, right? So, so I guess that's an interesting aspect. We've got a couple more questions here before we go. First a comment from Artie here. Texas State versus Arkansas State, Louisiana at ULM, etc., and repeat them like Dominic said. So, Yeah, he's agreeing with me. I think you just have to have some continuity. I think that's one reason why App Georgia Southern is so heated, because it happens every year. It happens seemingly towards the end.
It dates. There's history, like a long time ago.
Yeah, and some stuff that happened between fan bases and all that kind of stuff. So that adds to it as well. This is a great question. Artie's got one here. Will any Sun Belt team be able to crack the top 25 this season?
I think. I mean, if we're talking about, I guess we can start with the West. I don't see nothing off the top of my head that says, I mean, Texas State, I think, has a really good shot, because I think talent-wise, they have the talent to be really, really good. I mean, I'm picking them to win the 9 to 10 games this year, but that's not enough to be ranked, right? Like, you've got to be undefeated in our conference. So when you talk about being undefeated, I don't know that we have anybody that's going to be undefeated. I mean, as much as I love my alma mater, I don't even think App State's going to be undefeated. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. We've got, I'll say this. App State's got the best chance midway through the season to be ranked. Now, finishing the season, a whole different ballgame. But you beat Clemson, then you jump up there and you're undefeated, and you go undefeated maybe the next 3 or 4 games. Then you're talking about a possibility but then you end the season with Colts or with Georgia Southern, and that's always a crapshoot. I don't care who's good.
You end the season with James Madison followed by Georgia Southern.
Right. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think it stays that way, right? Because, I mean, as much as I would love for us to go undefeated, the likelihood in this conference is slim. I mean, it's no different than when I played in the Sun Belt. I mean, we beat Michigan, and then the next week we lost to Wofford. So it's a very tough conference. Best chance to be ranked. Again, I sound like a homer, but it is Appalachian State. I mean, because if you think about the other P5 wins, you've got JMU playing Carolina. I don't know that a win against them is going to get you ranked. Who is it that plays Wake Forest?
Louisiana.
That's not going to do it. Texas State against Arkansas or against Arizona State, not going to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pulling up a few schedules just to know, because, like you said, essentially for a Sun Belt team to get ranked, you've got to play a ranked team and beat them. I feel like that's like almost a given, or you have to have like a season where a bunch of other teams lose early. But I just that's not probably likely to happen. So I think you said Texas State to start with, right? Or did you mention them?
I think Texas State is good. I don't think they'll have the schedule to be ranked, because they only play Arizona State as their non-conference or highly ranked or whatever you want to call it, P5 school. And I don't think first of all, I don't think they'll go undefeated, and I don't think that win is good enough to put them over the top.
Yeah. So are you saying, like, so basically if anyone runs the table? Yeah, I think unfortunately that's pretty much what it's. I don't know. That's so hard. Is because there's so many variables outside of the Sun Belt that come into play there, right? Like, and I don't know everyone else's schedule good enough to say that yet. But I'm just looking at Texas State's schedule individually here. You're not going to get anything for beating Lamar. UTSA is a good quality win if they can get that.
Yeah, but Arizona, is it quality enough?
Well, no, I'm not saying to elevate them immediately, but let's say they string some of these things together. So you beat UTSA, you beat Arizona State. Again, those two things even combined, I don't think are enough to just get you ranked.
Sure.
Unless you ended the season like in the conversation or just outside, and you start that way, and I don't know, one of those two teams is 2-0 coming into the game, or you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't know. The problem thereafter is that, their strongest game, the remainder of their schedule is Troy. And we don't even think Troy's going to be what they were last year. I don't think anyway.
No.
So you don't have any more resume builders after that week. So at that point, if they're undefeated, I think that's a shot. But again, it's what Artie's saying. Like, you just got to be undefeated. I'm just going to look at maybe one other one. and I don't even know who I'm going to pick here. Let's look at Arkansas State's schedule individually, just to see. I mean, they'd have to beat Michigan.
No.
And then they'd follow that up with the game at Iowa State, but I don't think you're getting credit. I mean, an Iowa State victory is a G5 victory nationally, right? I mean, I don't think you're getting credit for that. And then
I don't even think they win. I don't think they win either of those games, to be honest.
Here's the thing. So you have to perform well outside of the conference. You have to have your conference mates also be really good.
Right.
Because that helps,
exactly.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't come into you can't. Let's just take this Red Wolves schedule, for example. They beat Central Arkansas, Tulsa. Let's just say they upset Michigan, and then let's say they lose a close game at Michigan, for argument's sake here.
Okay.
And then they beat Iowa State easily. So they're 3-1 with a close loss to the national contender or national title possible contender and former national champion from last year. And then, you play South Alabama, Southern Miss, Troy, Texas State. You got to have like Texas State coming in with only one loss or something. Troy also coming in with only one. You have to have some more kind of resume builders.
There's too many. There's too many what ifs in this conference. And this conference is so tough that it's going to be hard to get that late in the season and play a team that's only lost one game or is undefeated like you. You know what I mean? So so regardless of how well you do, even if you do go undefeated and, the last two games are, let's say, a 2-loss Appalachian State or a 3-loss, I don't know, Texas State, what does that do for you?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. It's like you said. I mean, I think you really, with what I'm seeing, I don't know if anybody had, that I can remember off the top of my head, if anybody had 2 Power 5 programs on their schedule. And even if they do, I bet one's ranked and one's not, kind of thing. We saw that with
I think didn't who had Auburn? Oh no, yeah, you're right. It was Arkansas State because they had Iowa, and I think they're G5, right? Is Iowa Big 12 or Iowa State Big 12?
Iowa State is Big 12, yeah.
Okay, so Iowa State
Power 5, I guess.
Right, so Iowa State and Michigan is who they have on their conference, so they would need to win both of those games back to back.
Yeah,
and then run the table.
Yeah, you can't lose after that. Yeah, we've seen that, right? Like, App State they weren't undefeated at that point. They had lost to Penn State in overtime to start the year, but they were ranked, and they lose at Georgia Southern. And we saw from the national outlook, they could have won every game by 40-plus points the rest of the year, and they still weren't going to be ranked again. Right. Like it just – unfortunately, that's how G5s are, right? Like we see it every year before the season starts. You take in consideration how last year ended, and we still see maybe one or no group of 5 teams in the top 25. Yeah. I'm like, you guys – I don't understand how the national media doesn't pay attention to this. Your power programs aren't always going to be your top 25 programs. Like,
and
every year.
And the thing is, for me, outside of the top 12, any of them can lose. We've proven that. But outside of your top 12, no one. It's a toss up. It's literally always a toss up outside of the top 12. I mean, think about it. Kentucky's going to be ranked 23rd going into the season, and who did we say play them this year in our conference?
That was week 1. Let me see. Jump back in here. Oh man, it's right tip of my tongue. Southern Miss.
Okay, so let's say Southern Miss has a good year next year, which very capable of doing.
Yep.
Are you going to be surprised if Southern Miss beats Kentucky? A 23 ranked Kentucky?
I didn't even know.
Who's never been known for football outside of like 2 years ago?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, when I saw that they were ranked, I was like, wait, do I have the right schedule? I was asking myself that. Like, they're ranked.
Exactly. Like, are you going to be surprised if Appalachian State beats Clemson? No one's going to. That's not going to shock it. Even if the way Auburn played last year. Are you going to be shocked if ULM beats Auburn? It'll be a bit surprising, but to say you're absolutely shocked, no one's going to be shocked. So, like, what are we doing? Like, I hate that they give these outside of, you've got your, like in the SEC, you've got Alabama, LSU. I think Florida State's going over to the SEC, but you'll have Texas, you'll have Oklahoma, and Ole Miss. Apart from that, anybody else can get beat.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida can get beat. Yeah, Georgia's not getting beat, so not Georgia.
Not by just anybody anyway.
Yeah, excluding Georgia. The rest can get beat. LSU, I mean, those teams. Anyway, we could do this all night. I mean, I know Pac-12 is not going to exist anymore, but outside of Washington and USC, maybe anybody else in that conference could get beat.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we saw them all kind of get like almost ranked or ranked real early last year, and then all kind of fall off.
Everything fell apart. Again, Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa. Outside of those four, anybody can get beat.
Yeah.
And that's not 12 teams I just named.
No. Yeah, 16-ounce lounge. He's a big-time Southern Miss fan. I love the name. He says, "Don't say it, damn it." He doesn't want that evil put on him, Ricky Bobby, about getting that early season victory. But Artie's also saying, "Did you know the ASU library closes at beer 30? American Dad episode clause. This little bitch thinks he's too good for ASU." Oh man,
that's funny.
Oh, American Dad, good quality thing.
American Dad, Family Guy. That's all my shows.
Oh yeah, I'm not a religious watcher of any of them, but I love just like catching clips. I can just those are the ones you just turn on when you're like, what am I gonna watch? I'll just watch this.
I'm gonna watch it as soon as we get done.
Nice. Okay, there you go. And 16-ounce lounge reminding us that Tulane did beat USC in the bowl game. Yeah, I mean, it can be done exactly. So I think we're going to see it get done again next year. Now we've got a 12-team playoff. Hopefully one of our teams can get in there. I think with how it's constructed, we've got as fair of a shot as we've ever had before. It ain't going to be easy once it happens. I was on the train that we were going to be the group of 5 representative this year in the New Year's 6 bowl game. Unfortunately, we were not. This is the one reason I also hate Liberty so much. I don't think they deserve to be there. They played a weak as hell schedule and got rewarded for it after we just said Florida State didn't. Right. I mean, I'm not saying Florida State had the hardest schedule, but it was certainly
tougher than Liberty's.
Yeah, and they're saying, "Oh, hey, you went undefeated. You did everything we asked, but you're not good enough to be included in these 4 teams." And listen, I'm not really saying that's wrong.
Listen, because I was going to say it's obvious that they were a different team without their quarterback. That said, Liberty was not very good either, in my opinion.
No, yeah. So that's where my struggle comes in with like saying these things and doing these things is like some kind of consistency. You're saying it doesn't matter here, but it does matter here. Right. I think that shows like the care they give the group of 5, right? Well, we really combed over this and decided Florida State wasn't quite at that level at this point in time, again, with the quarterback missing situation. So we're going to elevate this other team. But they did not do that same thing with Liberty. They just said, well, they're undefeated, just put them in. That's kind of what the thought process had to be. And I think that's BS. And so I don't like the fact that they got the spot over, I think, what was a more deserving Troy team, or what was a more deserving team in, I just went blank on.
Was it Tulane?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, Tulane or Troy both deserved that more than Liberty did to me. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I don't think Liberty should have got the spot. And I knew they were going to get hammered going into the game. They looked good for one series to start the game.
I was here to say maybe I think a series and a half.
Yeah. And then it was over.
Very quickly.
Yeah. Troy, our editor over at College Football Dogs, saying horrible commentary about the Pac-12. What Pac-12? It's gone. It's over.
I was going to say it's evaporated, sir.
I'm listening. I bet you're not listening after that comment. He's probably jumping right back off.
Right.
Artie said the group of 7 needs to leave and form their own championship. Sooner the better. Even conference champions don't get a bid into the playoff system. I mean, I don't want to see that happen because I think it's more fun when we have shots at these bigger programs.
Yeah.
However, if we completely close the door, and like someone alluded to earlier, it might have been Artie himself, the Big Ten and the SEC kind of go do their own thing and leave NCAA or something, then yeah, we need to reconstruct the whole thing at that point.
Right.
But I don't want to see that. I mean, we didn't. App State, James Madison, Coastal Carolina, a number of other squads. We didn't all move up to this level of football to be 1AA.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't reclassify just to get reclassified again. So yeah, I don't want to just do it on its own. But yeah, if we're going to not level the playing field a little bit, then we got to do something different. But I don't want to see it just because the hell with it, we're going to do our own championship. But right. I would like to see them focus, if everything stays kind of status quo, do something about the bowl games. Don't have all these tie-ins. Make some matchups just make sense better. I mean,
like it's so weird having like some of these bowl games just don't make any sense at all to me. I don't know.
Like, what do we have? We had Georgia State traveling out to Boise, Idaho to play Utah State. Who cares? Right. I mean, yeah, we wanted the Sun Belt team to win. Great. Georgia State won. I bet you people from Atlanta didn't care that they went all the way out to Boise to play a game against Utah.
And I bet you the people from Atlanta didn't go unless it was their cousin or brother or son or whatever.
Yeah, it's just so dumb. Like, just make us care more. I mean,
right. Make it regional. Like, and also too, like, stop with this number 25 plays number 14. What the hell are you? What is that about?
Yeah.
Who's deciding who gets to play who in these bowl games? Like, why is 13 not playing? Like, after the top 12, why is 13 not playing 14 and 15 not playing 16? And like, what is the point of even having a ranking system if you're not going to make the teams that are in the ranking system play against each other?
Yep, I agree.
To me.
Nope. I mean, the only one that might like not make sense that we still want to see is like a G5 against somebody in a New Year's 6. Like that regionally, that's probably not going to make sense. But you make that matchup because of what it is and what it means.
Sure.
But you're right. Across the board, the rest of the way, like, I mean, the Sun Belt seems to always match up mostly against the MAC. I mean, that's fine, but like, if it makes sense because of like both teams being, I don't know, 11-1 or I don't know, just
right. Like last year we had like I think an 11-1 team play like a 7-5 team or whatever it was, 7. I'm like, well, this make sense. Like, how's that a fair matchup? Like, how's this even?
Yeah, like even last year, App State played Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio wasn't excited to play App with the fact that technically James Madison had the better record,
right,
overall, and then you had them go up against Air Force. Miami of Ohio is a conference champion playing the conference runner-up from the Sun Belt. That part kind of makes sense. That's okay. But, like, I don't know. Like, again, that's just not a matchup. Like, people in Miami of Ohio didn't care about playing App State and vice versa. Like, neither school. Like, we're pumped for this matchup. I mean, it was cool that it was in Orlando. That was the best aspect of that game. And then it ended up being a monsoon. But, I mean,
and had it been clear skies, App State would have just, absolutely dominated them. They could not be stopped outside of fumbles.
Right. They stopped themselves multiple times. Absolutely. Troy's saying, nope. Still Pac-12. Horribly misinformed. I mean, I know it actually exists. What I'm saying is, for all intents and purposes, it's over, done, kaput. It's over. Yeah. So,
also, like, might be
two numbers. Yeah, still known as the Pac-12. That's hilarious. The Pac-2, baby. Artie says the FCS playoff is superior. Follow that model, TJ. That you've literally participated in that. You won 3 straight of them. Is that a model that? I guess here's the basis. We'll dumb it down to this. Is there too many though? I mean, they've expanded it since you've been in it. So
I was going to say, what is it now? How many teams is it now? 16?
I think it's 24.
Jesus, that might be too many. Well,
Like the first
here's the thing, though. If you're going to have a top 25, then you might as well have a top 25 playoff.
or top 24 since, you know.
Or top 24.
Yeah.
However, that makes a very long season.
Yes.
That, especially in D1 football, like that would make. I mean, they'd be playing into February.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, at that point, it's the NFL, so they would be tough to get more than 12 teams. I think 12 is a good number. I think 12 is a good number. You get the top 2 teams; they have bye weeks, and then the other 10 teams that go at it, and then so on. So I think 12 is legit. I think if we expanded it to 16, I wouldn't be mad about it, but I think 12 is good enough.
Yeah.
12 is good enough. 16 teams would almost guarantee 2 group of 5 wins, or 2 group of 5 schools. That would almost guarantee it, because then at that point you'd have to award 2 G5 conference champions with the best records.
Yeah.
To make it fair, you would almost have to put them in to make sense. And top 12, you don't have to do that because there's probably 12 teams better than the group of 5. Sometimes not, but sometimes, I mean, more times than not, yes.
Right.
But 16 would guarantee that a group of 5 got in.
Yeah.
At least one, maybe 2.
I'll be honest with my take here. Some people won't like it. Like you said, though, I don't think the group of 5 always necessarily deserves a shot.
No, absolutely.
There's going to be times where like the best group of 5 team comes in with like 2 losses, and there happens to be 3 of them that were tied at 2 losses or something. You know, nobody beat none of those top teams beat like a Power 5 program throughout the year. But that's just a year they don't deserve a spot. It's fine. It's not going to happen all the time, but it will happen occasionally. I was actually a proponent of staying around 4, but my sweet spot was actually 6. You reward the top 2 teams with a bye the first week of these playoffs and say like, hey, there's a reason you played so hard is you get to stay home and rest up and get some guys recovered. Right. And you have the other 4 go at it, because there's always been like that 5th team out of the 4 who's got an argument, get left out. Sometimes there's kind of 6 that are close. I think 6 was the sweet spot. And then, hey, group of 5 will always struggle to make that. But imagine when they do, the Cinderella story that could come out of that. Again, the likelihood that a G5 gets in there often, no. But we did see Cincinnati do it, so it's not unheard of. Right. I was a proponent of going to about 6 and being it, because I really, like you said, there's not enough teams that are actually national title contenders. There's some really, really good teams who deserve a really, really good bowl game, right, but not a shot at a national title. So
right. Well, I think 6 wouldn't have been enough to shut everybody up. Like I think.
I agree.
I think good football players, or good football watchers and people who understand football know that there's only 6 good teams that are championship, capable. But 12 just it quiets the crowd. 12 just says, okay, we know for a fact there are not 12 good teams, but you know what? These last 4, we'll let you guys duke it out. Right.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's I'm not hating the way it's done, but I'm just saying when they talked about expansion, I was like, no, I'm not like going to be hurt because they don't have 12. Like if they go to 6 or 8, like that would work for me personally. But again, I think in our heart of hearts, we all know that there's not that many teams that are really vying for the absolute top spot. And already saying the top 8 teams get a bye now as well. So it doesn't add a lot of extra time to the playoff format. So, yeah. But, hey, I'm excited that it's expanding all the same, because the likelihood that a Sunbelt team finds their way in there with where we think the Sunbelt is going to is, I think, very high. So we will see. We just ran through the entire conference slate. We will do something team by team later as we go on. Maybe like, I don't know, TJ, we'll talk about this at some point after, but focus on like one team for a whole episode and break it down. Probably closer to the season than now, but something we could do. I like the way we had it tonight because it kept us talking about all teams as we ran through. Right. looked like we had a ton of, well, definitely we had a ton of interaction on the comments. Everything was jumping tonight. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, collegefootballdogs.com, rebranding as Dog TV very shortly for the media network aspect. Mr. TJ Corman, you want to tell the people where they can find you on the social medias?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook as obviously TJ Corman. Instagram, I have 2, Mr. Corman 12 for obvious reasons, and Big Thighs and Large Fries. You guys follow me and let me know what you think.
Definitely do that. He's putting up good food all the time, and we will get you that episode where we focus specifically on TJ and what he does on the side. And until next time, we will see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.